Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Digital Middle Eastern and African FP&A board. Today we're going to be speaking about FP&A of the future, adapting to the new normal. My name is Hans Gobin. I am founder member of the London board, International FP&A board ambassador, and I will be facilitating the call today. Also joining me is Larissa Melnichuk, who is the founder of FP&A Trends and also the MD. She will be helping us with the Q&A session at the end. Just for information, we have 421 participants today, so it is going to be a great meeting. So thank you very much for joining. I will now quickly take you through the agenda. Today we'll be talking about scenario planning, how it has changed in the new normal, how are FP&A teams using collaborative planning and tools to work in the new normal, the role of modern technology, digital FP&A, how do we move to the leading analytical stage, aligning our skills to the new normal, latest FP&A trends in recruitment, conclusions and recommendation, and then finally the Q&A session. A quick reminder of our journey, the FP&A Trends Group journey. 4 years ago, we started our international expansion. Today, we are proud to say we have 27 chapters in 27 cities, 16 countries, and 4 continents. A quick summary of what we've done so far in the Middle East. We have had 7 or so meetings of great and hot FP&A topics, as you can see. Our last one was in February 2020. After that, we've had COVID, so no face-to-face meeting, which is why we're here today in terms of our first webinar. It is now a good time for me to introduce the members of the panel and speakers to all of you today. So if I invite the member of the panel to please put their webcam on and also to unmute themselves, that would be great. So our first member and speaker today is George Capitelli. Hi, George. George is a CFO at Abu Dhabi Health Services SAHA. George is a member of our Melbourne FP&A board and has presented in various different occasions. Today, George will be talking us through scenario planning, how he has had to adapt to the new normal. Hello, George. Our second member is Clara Hoon. Clara today will be talking to us about FP&A teams and collaborative planning. Clara is a member of our Dubai FP&A board and is international media finance leader at Nielsen. Hello, Clara. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Our third speaker today is Flavio. Flavio is a CFO of Cluster Europe at Sandoz in Novartis division. Flavio is also a professor teaching at various universities in Italy. Flavio joins us from Geneva and is a Geneva FP&A board. And will today take us through how to use technology to enhance FP&A. Hello, Flavio. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you very much.
Our fourth speaker today is Shyam Rajendran. Shyam is Managing Director at Planafin, an independent consulting firm focused on enterprise planning, performance management solutions with presence in UAE, UK, and India. Today, Shyam will be talking us through digital FP&A. How do we move to that leading stage? Hello, Shyam.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you. Himashi is our next speaker today. Himashi Soriano is Managing Director at APAC, for the Association for AFP. Himashi is helping Treasury. We seem to be having some interferences. Apologies for that. I think it's fine now. Sorry, just going back. Himashi has been helping Treasury and finance practitioners achieve career goals through training of certified Treasury, CTP, and FP&A qualification. Today, she will be taking us through FP&A skills through the new normal. Hello, Himashi. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
And finally, Devanjali Rishi, our last speaker, will be joining us from Dubai. Will be talking around the latest trend in FP&A recruitment in the new normal, covering Middle East and Africa. Devanjali is an associate director at Michael Page and manages finance, secretarial, as well as support team. Hello, Devi.
Hi, Hans. Hello, everyone. Hi. Nice to be.
Fantastic. I will now invite our panel to go on mute and turn their webcam off, and I'll take our members through some housekeeping. Thank you very much, panel. We've got a great panel today, and I'm sure the discussion will be fantastic. Housekeeping. 90 minutes webinar today, 4 polls and a Q&A session at the end. You can ask questions via the chat box during the Q&A session, or you can start now. The chat box is open. You can connect to all of our speakers through LinkedIn. Please feel free. Automatic survey at the end of the webinar when we close, so please give us your feedback. A quick thank you to our sponsors today. Our technology sponsor, Jedox, provider of platform for planning, reporting, and analytics. Thank you, Jedox. Planafin, leading enterprise planning and performance management solution deployment in Middle East. Thank you, Planafin. Michael Page, obviously the world's leading professional recruitment consultancies. Thank you, Michael Page. And finally, we've got AFP. Thank you, AFP. Before we move to the presentation, I just thought I'd bring this up just to remind people of the FP&A maturity model, the 5 stages, and today we will be highlighting the leading stages. So the key attributes, and we'll be talking about the 5 facets of the new normal, where we have scenario planning, FP&A teams and collaborative planning, technology, digital FP&A, and FP&A skills. First one up, we're going to be talking about scenario planning, quick, flexible, real-time, multidimensional, especially in the new normal with COVID and anything else that will happen or is bound to happen. Again, highlighting a couple of things here on that leading sort of stage. So gladly, I would now like to ask George Capitelli, Group CFO of SEHA, to take us through his presentation. George, you're welcome.
Thank you, Hans, and it's wonderful to be here with passionate FP&A professionals from around the world. If we could go through to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about SEHA, Abu Dhabi Healthcare Services. So it's a comprehensive healthcare provider in the UAE, predominantly located in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. So you can see from that map, we cover the whole Emirate, including the western region, very rural, desert-like, but still in need of health services. Large organization, almost 20,000 employees, 2,500 operating beds, 63 facilities, that includes 3rd hospitals, and a large number of outputs. Key issue of SEHA, it's not a sustainable business model. Large losses, expensive for the government, and definitely in needing transformation. And that's why I joined here in early 2019. However, this year, in the middle of all that transformation, COVID just put another significant challenge in front of the organization. And if we go to the next slide, Hans, SEHA really became the main health system really that led the fight against COVID-19 for the UAE. So in the middle of transformation, we had to dedicate a significant amount of resources to fighting COVID-19. Our 63 facilities grew by a further 48, drive-through centres, screening centres, field hospitals, dedicated hospitals, hotels that we took over. Our 2,500 beds grew by another 10,500 approximately across all of these services. You know, at the end of August here, we provided screening for almost 3 million individuals. That's grown to almost 4 million by the end of September, and telemedicine, telepharmacy became a whole new business model, if you like. So this all created real stress on the organisation, significant increase on pressure and demands on SEHA. And if we go to the next slide, that required extensive scenario planning. It became a key business challenge for the organisation. Now, while we were performing and looking after COVID and all of those COVID dedicated resources that I mentioned, the government did provide or is providing funding for those services, but in order to be able to receive that funding, you need to provide clear substantiation, have clear review process and approval process, right? And that required us to separate our business lines and all of our services under those business lines between COVID and non-COVID, and understand the relationship between the two and the financial outcomes between the two. That was an extensive exercise. To be able to support this, there were two key elements. One was a COVID predictive modelling tool that we acquired from a UK firm. That enabled us to really increase our knowledge base on the virus and help us predict the number of patients that we'd have, the acuity of those patients, so that we'd be able to understand where we'd have to place them in our system. Was it a low-level field hospital? Was it an intensive care bed? Now, when this crisis all started, we had no idea around the type of care and the processes that we'd need to follow. So this tool gave us a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge that was used to help our operation, our clinical operations, as well as our financial modelling. The second key part was an upgrade to our financial forecast model. That was critical, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. But in the end, we needed to meet really stringent reporting requirements for our key stakeholders. And this new environment really required a major rethink to our standard financial planning processes. If we move to the next slide, Hans, this all happened very quickly in the March-April period of this year, 2020. And the FP&A team was really at the core of all this and led the various activities to ensure effective planning. So I spoke about the new financial model. It was internally developed, right? We used internal programmers. It was integrated across all of our different operations that I spoke about earlier. We moved towards automating forecasting, where we use trend analysis, a bit of predictive analytics to help our forecasting. That then would be reviewed where there was, key major changes. Looked at scenario analysis, management reporting was improved, and we're actually using this now for our long-term business plan development. Additionally, we looked at our accounting processes and controls, especially around revenue and expense recognition. That became a key for us because we need to make sure that our financial exposure, if you like, for COVID would meet government reporting requirements. And then to further support that, it was late July, August, we actually had our internal audit department review all of our COVID funding support and make sure that we would meet government requirements. So this gave us a really strong understanding of our COVID and non-COVID business lines, and make sure that we were able to justify the COVID expense. But on the non-COVID side, there was, because of the massive change in the environment, there was a significant loss of revenue. We were able to transfer some of those resources to the COVID business lines, But in the end, we're actually required to take some action in terms of reducing our cost base. So we use the financial analysis, the financial performance reporting to support those decisions. This all led to regular government review, so we needed to keep the data up to date, monthly reforecast, which enabled us to improve our processes and accuracy. And then there was a continued refinement, if you like, of our approach and reassessment of our financial performance. If we turn to the final slide, main point I just want to talk to here are our key lessons learned. Firstly, communication, right? I mean, it's a common statement, but really it was at the center of everything that we did, both to our internal and external stakeholders. Internally, it was our executive team, our key operating staff. We had to make sure that we're all aligned, aware of where the direction we were heading to, what was happening out at each of the hospitals or facilities, and we could then use that to make sure we were forecasting accurately. Externally, government, shareholders, suppliers, our insurers, right, private health insurers, we needed to be aligned, update, because it was such a dynamic environment, and make sure we had the latest information for each of these groups. This led to regular updates, and we used that to instill confidence in the financial. Whenever we had our reviews with our stakeholders, we made sure that the caveats were clear, because this was such a fluid and disruptive environment. We used that to limit surprises. And then what happened, the stakeholders actually became really strong advocates. And that then, once you've got, especially when you're talking about government, once they are strong advocates for your business, it makes a huge difference. Another point I want to talk to is our finance team. This was a really difficult environment. Everyone was working from home from March through to about July. Even now, 50% of our group are working from home. Changed environment, a lot of pressure, work, family-wise. We had regular well-being seminars where we spoke through key issues, made sure that everyone's voice was heard, concerns were raised. I think that made a real difference. To sort of close with, final thoughts are there around key staff. You know who your key staff are, but in this environment, this is where they really excel and make the difference. And you learn who you can rely on, who you can't, which makes it really important is when you go forward as a business, and who you need to reward and not. And in the end, we got through this. We were successful. We're in a much better position to refine the business going forward, make the right calls, and be prepared for the second wave that's here now. And this is because of the strong teamwork. It made a huge difference. All these lessons learned around communication, working together, supporting together, make sure the right people are there. That's what got us through this. So thank you, Hans.
Thank you very much, George, for an excellent presentation, and it really brings the message home, especially you being at the forefront of trying to dealing with COVID, but at the same time, what a great piece of work you guys have done in terms of bringing, your scenario planning up to scratch, and putting yourself in front for the next few challenges that you will have. So thank you very much, George, for that presentation. Clara, I would like you to add your comments to George's presentation, please, if you may.
Hi, everyone. Yes, thanks a lot, George, for the nice presentation. I think it really brought home a lot of points that we could mostly relate to, especially, with the changing environment on COVID, and how everybody needed to change our way of working, change our way of communicating with each other, and how we collaborate has also changed a lot. So it's good to hear that your team has done well, and key staff has also excelled, and you even have a new modeling model that's out there that was good for the operations as well. So really nice to hear how you have evolved and changed so quickly to meet to this changing environment that we have. New normal, I would say.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you very much. Flavio, your comments, please.
Yeah, no, that was a great presentation, George. Thank you very much for sharing. I was impressed. I mean, first of all, how you really react on it, and you have been able to develop together with these UK companies this COVID predictive modeling. I mean, it's been fantastic, I think. And then how the FP&A team, no, I mean the role that the FP&A team played, and how the team stepped up really in managing this tough situation. I mean, this is impressive. So really, thank you very much for sharing. I learned a lot, and we'll be in touch on this.
Thank you very much, Flavio. Thank you, Clara, and thank you very much, George, for your great presentation. Thank you. It's a good time now for us to move to our first polling question. So I will start and launch the polling questions. You guys will be able to see the polling question as well as the answers. If you can start voting, please. I am launching it now and the poll is open. So the first polling question is around what is the best description of your scenario planning process? Scenarios are played in real time. Scenarios are played in less than 1 day. We can play scenarios, but it's very time consuming, or finally, we are unable to play scenarios. If you can vote, please. We've got quite 35–40% voting. I'll give you guys another few seconds. So please, great. I'm going to close the poll now. So closing the poll. Thank you very much for voting, and I will now share the results. I would like to ask George to give us his view on what he can see and whether or not the results is something he was expecting. George, please.
You know, this is really difficult, Hans. So it's actually pleasing to see that 50% of organizations are in real time, scenarios are played in real time or in less than 1 day. I think that's really positive, and that's a trend where I think more and more organizations are moving towards. So I think that's excellent.
Thank you very much, George. Clara, what is your opinion on the poll?
I think it's great to see that more than 90% can actually play scenarios. So I think that is in itself very good. And yes, same as George, I'm pleasantly surprised, but not exactly taken aback that a quarter of them are saying that they can play in real time. I think with the COVID situation, yes, definitely brought us this kind of forced us to have to do such scenario playing real time and very, very quickly. So it's heartening to see that a lot of you have actually voted for that.
Thank you very much, Clara. Yeah, absolutely spot on. I will now hide the poll and the answers, but very definitely what we can see is what we can see now is that more than 90% are doing scenario planning. So that's great to see. Moving on. So the next facet is FP&A teams and collaborative planning. So how teams are reacting these days? What do they need to be? Multifunctional, multi-skilled, collaborative technology. Again, just to highlight, couple of from the leading stage, couple of key attributes: so real-time collaborative planning, leading FP&A business partnering. And I would like now to ask Clara Hoon, International Media Finance Leader at Nielsen, to give us her take on FP&A teams and collaborative planning. So Clara, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans. And hello, everybody, once again. My name is Clara, and I'm leading the international finance team in Nielsen Media. As you can see, geographically, we are spread out across 61 countries, and we kind of organize ourselves broadly into 4 regions. Out of this, there's 143 finance associates out there, and 30 of them are like yourself, FP&A, or what we call business partnering team members. And if you move to the next page, that's where you can see how we kind of do a collaboration and also do our planning activities. Let me first speak about some of the collaborative tools that we have to facilitate communication, because this is very key for us to be able to do it digitally, especially in this current environment, and also the way of how we are so geographically spread out across multiple time zones and not in the same country. We use a lot of different kind of tools, like for example, video. video calls instead of audio tools for all our meetings, so that we are able to see each other face to face in that sense digitally. And in the past, where we used to rely heavily on email, nowadays we also start to shift into more collaborative tools such as shared drive. And if you have not so formal kind of discussion, so let's say some informal discussion or quick chats that you want to find out, then we use all other means of collaborative tools such as WhatsApp even, or like our company, we are using Hangouts, so we cannot use Hangout, there's Skype, all the different kind of tools for you to do informal chats. At the same time, we also leverage a lot on the global systems that our company has set up. This is to ensure that we cannot drive consistency. This is even more heavily used during this COVID period, where we had to make sure that the data source is all very consistently done, and we are leveraging a lot more into the data that we see in the system. Reason being, COVID environment has made sure that we needed to do a lot of scenario planning, like what all of you had done the voting just now. We needed to update the planning very frequently, especially at the start of COVID when environment just keeps changing. So as a result of that, we have been leveraging a lot more on all the data that we can find in the system, trying to do all sorts of different planning around it. At the end of the day, my company do not have a planning system or planning tool. So some of the things that we are doing is still relying on the good old Excel, as I will not be surprised if some of you are doing that. But what we have done is instead use other forms of the collaboration tool that are available, such as the shared drive, such as our shared forms, so that we are able to do live update with each other round the clock. And at the same time, while the different scenarios keeps taking place, we are able to kind of move very quickly into how the new scenario is looking like for us. Now, how do we do this? If you turn to the next page, we will be able to see some of the traits that enable us to be very successful in this area. Trust is the first and foremost item that needs to be done. We need to have trust. Trust between managers and the staff, trust among your team members, trust on the wider organization with all your peers and all your fellow colleagues beyond finance. At the same time, we needed to have a lot of transparency in our communication, make sure that there's over communication if possible. That's our motto for this period of time. At the same time, we had to deal with empathy and also a lot of flexibility. Remember, at the COVID period, everybody is having a lot of different competing priorities that has just surfaced out, which we are all learning to deal with as well. Personal front, as well as a professional front. At the same time, we have made a cautious decision that we have got to make all sorts of different decisions much faster, fewer, as well as being bolder. What this means is that we all need to be very agile as well as adaptable in how we will be dealing with things. Last but not least, this is all enabled by a clear accountability to everybody. All the team members needs to be very clear on who is doing what and by when. This way, we know that how the whole team is kind of working towards the same goal. If I turn to the next page, that's where I'll share a few key success and learnings that we have. First and foremost, trusting your team. Like I mentioned earlier, we need to manage them, but make sure that you do not micromanage them. What we have done is that we have set expectation very clearly from the start, and then we allow the team the flexibility to do the work as they wish to, fitting into their own personal needs as well as how the environment setup is, as well as how they want to do the work. What it means is that we need to be very transparent as well. Always keep the team informed of all the changes that are coming and make sure that this information is provided to them timely. At the same time, as a manager, have to be always available for the team. Make sure that we are in present with them. Whenever they needed to have some discussion, whenever they have any doubts or need some clarification, if they are too stressed and needed some prioritization, this is where being available for them really helps a lot. We also work through the communication, multiple different communication channels. Like I mentioned, we have video over audio. And one of the things that we have noticed as we evolve over this period of time is that at the start of the meeting, while you're waiting for everybody to join in the meeting, there's a lot of small talks that happen. And this small talks tends to surround as an individual associate in terms of how are you doing today? How is the family like? How is everything at home? How are you coping and stuff like that? Which is good because then it adds a lot more personal touch to what we typically are used to when we were in the office. Same thing with the chat tools. We have a lot of we use all sorts of different chat tools for us to do informal and quick discussion. Last but not least, we always have to respect people's home life challenges now, especially in this new environment where there are so many new things that are happening in our life for which we are all learning to deal with. So with this, let me send it back over to Hans.
Thank you very much, Clara, for a great presentation. Yeah, it is a new normal. I think we've seen so much change over the last 6 to 9 months, and how you have dealt with the team and how you have worked with the team is just great. I think it's people, but it's also tools. And you've highlighted to us there that you don't have any major planning tools, but it's just making sure how you best utilize whatever you have in this day and age. So thank you very much for that. I would like to invite George to give us his point of view on Clara's presentation, please. George.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Clara. That was wonderful. And it really makes you appreciate when you work in such a diverse international market, how it is difficult to bring the whole team together. And I think that discussion around trust, right? How do you set up the right environment and make sure that there is trust and transparency? That's the key. So I enjoyed hearing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Himashi, can we hear your thought on Clara's presentation, please?
Hi everyone. Thanks, Clara. Thank you for sharing your experience. I think it's great to see how your team has adapted. And I think we're all feeling, the same challenges. So it was great to hear, even if it's such a small team, how you've done so well to keep a team engaged. I think that's probably the most important, because you can't see them face to face. So it's great to hear what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Himashi. Clara, thank you very much for such a great presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
It is a good time now to move to our second poll of the day. I will now be opening the second poll, and there we go, launching the poll. So if I quickly read the question out to you guys, which one of the following statement best describes your FP&A team's business engagement? Always involved, always asked to provide financial analysis, but no more than that. Involve only because it is mandated by senior leadership. Sometimes involved, sometimes left out. And finally, usually excluded. If you can please vote, that'll be excellent. I can see 35–40% have voted. I'll give you another few seconds. 55–60, yep, we're getting there. I'm now about to close the poll, and I am closing the poll. Thank you very much for voting. I will now share the results, and we'll ask Clara to give us her opinion on what we're seeing. Clara, please.
Hi. Well, it's great to see that it's practically 100% that you have been involved, and it's good that more than half you are involved early. I think this resonates very well with how people are evolving and understanding the needs of engaging the FP&A team. And I think this also tells a lot about the kind of value that you and your team are bringing to the table, to the business. And we are not just finance people, but we are really, finance business partnering in a true sense. And I think it's good that the polls are telling that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Clara. Flavio, your take on the results that we're seeing, please. Flavio, you might be on mute.
Yeah, you're right. I can just echo on what Clara just mentioned. I think I'm extremely happy and proud to see that the answer is of the participant is sharing with us that we are always involved early, and this early is quite important because we really should be involved from the very beginning in order to be able to generate value and to add value to our company. So great job.
Thank you very much, Flavio. I'm now going to hide the results. Thank you very much. And we now move on to the next. So The third facet of the new normal FP&A is around technology. So what is happening and how we're dealing and taking technology to that next level? Technology should be on demand. How are we utilizing AI, ML? How are we collaborative? How are we using collaborative technology to make sure we push to that next level? Again, I've highlighted 3-4 very key aspect of that leading stage on our FP&A analytics model. So predictive, prescriptive, digital FP&A, integrated planning, real-time collaborative planning. And I would now like to invite Flavio, CFO at Cluster Europe at Sandoz, to give us his take on how he's using modern technology in his company to push the boundary in the new normal. Flavio, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans. Thank you very much for the introduction. It perfectly fit with what we are gonna discuss quite soon. So yeah, first of all, this is a quote that I really like and enjoy, because I think that we should truly try to leverage the status quo every day in our daily professional life. And if we go to the next slide, I think that before talking about the digital technologies, it's always extremely important to talk a bit about what is the role that our people should play within our function, and trying to leverage more and more on these digital technologies. So if you take a look at this graph, you may see that on one axis we are moving from transactional activities to analyze. On the other axis we are moving from finance to value, and where we want our people to be is to become more and more a kind of intelligent finance people that are adding value to our company, leveraging on the utilization of digital technology in order to analyze the full set of data that we have available. And in order to do this, and moving to the next slide, and I will not go through all the single bullet point, but just from a graphic standpoint, moving from the today to the tomorrow, you may see that we want to focus on a smaller number of priorities, but really these are the key ones that we really should try to tackle and to manage in the best way that is possible. And these are to plan, to analyze, and to advise. Now, if we have intelligent finance that will focus on these 3 key priorities and leveraging on the digital technology, we believe, and this is what we did in our company, that we can do a great job. Moving to the next slide, and in the meanwhile, let me just also introduce a bit to give you a bit of perspective of Sandoz. Sandoz is part of Novartis Group. It is around $10 billion business, 1,000 molecules, and trying to achieve around 1 billion patients in the world. In the finance function, we are trying really to understand how digital technology can support us moving forward. And in this slide, you have around 4 different examples. I will not spend too much time on the paperless, but if we move already to robotics, and sometimes this word is a bit scaring us. Now, when we're talking about robotics, usually it's a software that is able to do some routine and ordinary activities in a quite easy way, working 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. And so just to make an example, how we are leveraging on robotics is just to scan invoices, to read these invoices, and then to transfer the data that we have on invoices to the ERP, to the SAP system. Another kind of technology is much more complicated, I believe, is the blockchain. I struggle a lot to understand what blockchain is and how blockchain can support the finance function. Then I talked with a couple of professors, and then they explained me that blockchain we can define as a sort of general ledger that is able to certify the transaction within different parties. And this is how we are applying it again into our company. We, as a pharmaceutical company, we can deliver a defined amount of sample to the physician. This is defined by the law of each single country, and we need to really to track the number of samples that we are delivering, and we need to really to control this. And now we are leveraging on blockchain. We're able to do it without spending too much time in reconciliation, who sent what when. And this blockchain is really good in doing this kind of certification of transaction. But last but not least, for sure, is predictive analytics. And when we talk about predictive analytics, I think is a real game changer. because this is what is impacting the most on one of the most important parts of our job, that is planning and forecasting activities. Moving to the next slide, Hans, here is just an example of a use case that we had in our company, where really collecting all the data available for our company, production data, sales and marketing, external data, but also the past prediction that we as a finance team we did again in the past. We tried to collect and we create this clean structure data warehouse, and this is extremely important to have clean data, because garbage in is garbage out. And then thanks to the predictive analytics modeling, we have been able to develop a much more accurate rolling forecast and then targeting tool in order really to forecast our sales, and not only for the next months and for the future. The huge impact that you're going to have leveraging on this kind of tool is, first of all, you stop asking to our people to do number crunching and continuous planning and forecasting activities. But from a business perspective, first of all, obviously we are increasing our forecast accuracy, and as a main outcome of this, we reduce the write-off impact into our P&L. We reduce the number of stockouts because we have obviously a much better forecast accuracy. We can improve the cost of goods sold. We can lower the cost of goods sold, and last but not least, again, we can better manage our inventory. And overall, as you know, this is hugely impacting into our working capital and our cash flow, and is extremely important. So the impact of a project like this is a really a fantastic impact in terms of performance, not only from a financial performance in terms of operating income, but also from a cash perspective. And moving to the last slide of this presentation, I mean, these just to sum it up a bit what we did. So working on sales predictive analytics, working on cash predictive analytics, how we did it, we built up a hub, a digital finance hub in Barcelona, where we are developing new kind of talents. They are not anymore sort of only, let's say, standard FP&A or BPA, business planning and analysis, but more sort of data scientists in order really to leverage on this technology and to provide us the right outcome. And another great example is the Genie app. That is an app that is pulling together all this information just on our iPhone. And on this app, we are able to see in real time the results of the forecasting process, but also of the actual results of our company. If I can share with you my advice now, how to get there, if you're just wondering, okay, but what should be the first thing to do if we really want to try to improve and to leverage on these digital technologies, I would strongly recommend not to start just doing something digital, but really to understand what is your objective, what is your goal that you want to achieve. Let's assume we want to improve our forecasting process. We want to have real-time data. And then once you understood this, you should try to understand what is the best technology that will bring you from where you are today to that objective. Otherwise, it will be just just another digital problem, and that's it. With this, I give it back to Hans. Thank you very much.
Flavio, thank you very much for a great presentation. We can clearly see how you've moved mountains and how you've put together different technologies to bring together change in the organization. And thank you for highlighting towards the end, you know, how you've so really when you look at it, how you've mapped yourself as to where are you, what do you want to do next, and then go and attack the next point, the next sort of technology. Again, going back to, in a way, FP&A maturity model. Thank you, Flavio. I would like to ask Clara. Clara, if you can give us your point of view on Flavio's presentation, please.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Flavio, for the presentation. It's very interesting. And it's good to see that your company is so cutting edge. I mean, you are using things like blockchain. And frankly, thanks for your explanation. I now know what blockchain is in the finance world. And yeah, it's interesting that, you know, you're using also things like the app, because it's not always that we hear that finance things, you know, you are in an app. And it's also good that you have shared that you actually do see some real positive impact to the numbers, to the financials. So I think great job, and nice to know that such things really can help us in finance and even help the business as a result. So it's some very real tangible things that we can work on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you very much for your input there. Shyam, can you please give us your take on Flavio's presentation, please? Thank you.
Right. So clearly, the need to be more tech savvy and adopting modern technology is an essential part of organization today's world. But what I really loved with this presentation and what Flavio has done with Sandoz is essentially this journey. And I really look at his word, intelligent finance. This journey is thoroughly thought out. It's not just the bus. He's identified use cases for each of these items, where they can easily be roadmapped with the objectives, outcomes, ROI, and embraced fully. One of the greatest examples is using the RPA for the invoice processing. Excellent, Sandoz. I hope it's quite motivating for all of us, and I hope all of us turn to be as mature as you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shyam. Thank you very much. Flavio, thank you very much for a great presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Before we move to our poll, I'd just like to highlight to the attendees that you could ask questions via the chat box if you may or wish to do right now. So please do so. And now I will be opening our third poll of the day, of the session, I should say. And I'm just about to launch the poll, which I've just launched. So I'll just quickly read what it's all about. Do you currently use modern collaborative technology for your FP&A? Yes, we do. First. Second, no, we do not, but do plan to implement in the near future. No, we do not, and do not plan to implement in the future. If you could vote, please. We've already got more than 50% voting. Excellent. Another few seconds, and I will close the vote. 70%. Wow. Thank you very much. I am now going to close the poll, and I'm sharing the results. Flavio, would you like to give us an indication of what do you think the polling is telling us, please?
Yes, sure. I cannot. Okay, I see it. No, we do not, but do plan to. I mean, I think this, yeah, a bit what I was expecting. I mean, probably I'm a bit more surprised about the no, we do not and do not plan to implement it. I think again, setting up our objectives for the future in the medium long term, we should plan, no, to implement something that will really support ourselves and our team. But I'm extremely happy to see that this is already, I mean, for the vast majority, is already in the plan to be implemented in the near future. And I think this is what it should be a bit wherever. I mean, we need again to try to leverage on this technology and try to change and to challenge again ourselves and not to be scared about these new technologies. This is, I think, the best thing to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Flavio. I would like to ask Shyam now to give us his view on what he's seeing, whether that's what he would have expected. Shyam, please.
Yes, this is exactly on the line, actually, because if you look at the curve, there's 30% who have embraced modern collaborative technology, and another 55% who have understood the need for this and plan to make that move. And there is a bit of 14% who's probably evaluating it and getting to understand and hopefully move in the near short term. So I think this is a fair expectation that I had.
Thank you very much, Shyam. Thank you. And yeah, it is very good to see more than 80% using it, 14%, but I think there is room for improvement and for people to push it. Let's not forget the FP&A analytics model usage to point out where you are and then move on. I am now going to hide this, and we will now move on to our next presentation. We will now be talking on the fourth facet of the new normal FP&A, so digital FP&A. How do we get to that leading stage? It needs to be agile, adaptable, and absolutely very, very quick. We have Shyam, Managing Director at Planafin, who will be taking us through his presentation on digital FP&A, moving to the leading analytical stage. Shyam, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Hans. And once again, big hello to everybody wherever you are. And thanks indeed making time to join in. If we could quickly take a pause now and look at how past months of the year have shaped in, from the onset of the COVID outbreak, you will agree that most of us and our organization too have literally gone through these three phases of sentiments. Initial one is quite a popular line these days, was more of a struck by lightning effect. Extremely challenging because the plans that we have made, be it budget or closest forecasts, have been made redundant, and there's no clear forward visibility in place. Now there are by factors of ineffective collaboration between people because a lot of us, started working from home, and there has been no proper digital communication systems in place. Struggles with business continuity plans, inability to access relevant data because the kind of data that we have been accessing in the past are no more relevant now. And most of these external and a good example could be the customer behavior trends these days. The systems in place are quite rigid or mostly manual, spreadsheet based, etc. Now, the second set of people and organizations, they seems to have clearly understood that this situation is not the first and certainly not the last two. And they have vowed to embrace the need to be more agile and resilient in adapting to the new normal. So these people have enabled effective digital communication usage, enhanced their digital learning and literacy. They identified a range of new scenarios and plans, and including effective trigger points for testing these scenarios and putting it in place. They clearly establish one single source of truth from the different data sources, be it structured or unstructured data, fully integrated, and established a more agile, flexible, and business-owned system. And that's aligns with the polling that we just saw earlier, the agility part of it. The next set of organizations, and these are quite mature ones, who have clearly understood that every crisis brings an opportunity, so that we are positioned not just to adapt to the new normal, but also to lead the next one. They realized this concept of digital workforce is a reality, and if it could be leveraged more effectively, can be more productive. They enhance the data literacy. I mean, it's no more FP&A with financial planning or accounting or close skills. They also need skill sets including data science and know-how for data statistics, the need for rapid planning, integrated and connected financial and operationally, because plans keep changing regularly. Data has to be quickly turned into insights and actions, and systems have to be very agile, real-time, intelligent, and essentially predictive in nature. Clearly, the need to be more tech-savvy and digitized has become an extremely essential part of the organization's agenda today. Can we move to the next slide, please? The move to the digital FP&A should essentially start with a clear leadership. The leadership to set the direction. This generally should come in from the CFO role, essentially because this role has the visibility of the overall impact and has the power to establish a clear program definition, including setting the objectives or bringing across cross-functional teams. It's not more just an FP&A team, it has to be cross-functional, and more importantly, it has to be empowered teams, and the need to look at multiple modeling scenarios, because the previous modeling concepts and scenarios may not be valid at all, and these should effectively be new driver-based, forward in nature with predictive and a lot of connected financial and operational models with real indicators and set of KPIs. Bear in mind, these set of KPIs also should be very clear. You should not bring around 100, 200 set of KPIs. These are effectively the KPIs that should show the results of your company and the direction that it's going. Importantly, we need to have an analytics talent strategy. Now, it needs to be a combination of business, technology, and analytical skills. this doesn't mean just be an FP&A skill set. As I said earlier, it has to have a combination of FP&A skill sets, knowledge of data science, a bit of data statistics, Python predictive algorithms to understand what kind of algorithms might be helpful in your use cases, some of the data modeling and warehousing and reporting and visualization tool know-how to. We need to have a technology mix. This could be a big data mix. This could be, visualizations. This could be the enterprise performance management tools. This could be the RPAs that you have seen, and the analytical tools combination. Lastly, we need to have a proper internal center of excellence established and led by the FP&A team, supported by the teams. Now, this covers the process as well as the technological point of view, with timely communications, providing valuable insight to all the stakeholders as well as to the employees in real time. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, this is where we need to look at a practical example, and I'm very encouraged to show something very close to our heart, is basically how a healthcare company during this period, kind of envisaged devising a digital value-based model. Rather than the traditional fee-for-service approach, value-based model is quite pertinent in today's times, primarily because healthcare outcomes that matter to patients most, and the cost to achieve these outcomes is derived by value-based models. Gone were the days exactly where you can go and conduct a lot of tests and you might not come with a efficient outcome out of it. So this model is also encourages a change in behavior in the community, lead to a larger preventive outcome, and impart more quality in life. So in this program also, it was effectively the CFO that led this along with the clinical and the operational teams, and the program was identified for a diabetes type 1, including glycemic control, and a type 2 for a metabolic syndrome. And the key drivers involved, identifying the number of visits the potential customer, or in this case patient, can have, virtual consultations that they can have, the clinical and administrative staff services, kind of a 24-hour medical hotlines, labs, and sensor equipments, and also quite a bit of consumables or prescribed devices like an insulin pumps and glucometers. So that's how this program was devised, how effectively a patient getting into this program can use these services over a period of time and come with a kind of positive outcomes that can be measured. Now, in all this, we need a data platform, because we need a data dictionary that has to leverage from multiple source of data. And these sort of data could be like your population mix that this program is looked into, the particular region or the country, the demographical mix, the electronic media records, quite a lot of surveys, and a lot of regulatory authorities and framework collaborations, etc. Now, this involves a big data solution on a data platform. This also involves an enterprise performance management platform that could be leveraged for building scorecards, for driver-based models and KPIs with risk assessments at each step, and to track and plan workforce, operational, and clinical capacity requirements, including supply chain at material consumables. How you can leverage a time-dependent activity-based costing model that then maps every administrative and clinical processes into a complete cycle care of the patient, and estimate the cost per minute of the clinical and administrative is actually imparted to identify what cost is coming out for both the patient as well as the provider. Further, the payment models, whether it is a bundle payment model or a captive payment models, were also evaluated and aligned with the insurance providers. Now, this require outcomes to be benchmarked against the quantitative and qualitative. Qualitative could be readmissions, the patient satisfactions, the patient experience, and how iteratively this could improve. So all of this, you would see a lovely, effective and more realistic model that visualized leveraging quite a lot of these big data technologies, enterprise performance management systems, and analytical and predictive systems in place. Next slide, please. Lastly, the critical success factors. Your drive to an FP&A or digital FP&A model has to be completely business owned. In the sense, you need to be very transparent on how the systems behave, how the systems are giving the results for you to analyze it. So these should have very low change management. You cannot have a system, that literally throws out a number which you have got no idea to. And you need to have versatile modeling, which should be very agile and flexible, not taking a lot of time to come out with the results. This has to be real time. This has to be extremely intelligent automation with a short time to action and come out with insights and decision making. That's it from my end, Hans.
Shyam, thank you very much for your presentation. It's great to see how you have leveraged and how you've described the whole process from data to making value out of it. So thank you very much for that. I would like to ask George to give us his point of view on your presentation, please. George, ready when you are?
Thank you, Hans. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, I was just going to say you might be on mute.
Yeah, no, Shyam, that was great. And, when you think about it, in this massive year of change, right, if we don't use this sort of framework, this roadmap that you've developed to move to a more digital FP&A process, then we've missed a massive opportunity. And I think when I look at most organizations globally, I think even the leadership teams, the CFO, and even our finance teams sort of need us to do this, right? So we've got a responsibility to start moving down this digital path. So thank you very much for giving us a roadmap.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much, Shyam. Great presentation again. Thank you very much. I will. Thank you. Before we move to our polling question number 4, I would just like to remind the attendees that they can ask a question via the chat box, but also please bear in mind that we will not be talking about any specific systems, given that we are vendor agnostic. So please ask a general question. Thank you very much. Just about now to launch the 4th vote for the day. Just launch it right now, so please vote, and I will read it out for you as well. How would you describe your current FP&A process? Static, not predictive, have some predictive elements, or examples, some drivers, fully driver-based, digital, using automation, predictive analytics, and machine learning. Please vote. I'll give another 5-10 seconds. We've got 51% voted already. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. I am now going to close the poll. Closing the poll right now. Thank you very much for voting. And I'm going to share the results. You can see 16% is not predictive at all. 67, some elements, 11% fully driver-based, 5% at that sort of leading state. Shyam, can I get your point of view on the poll we've just run, please?
Sure, Hans. I think this is again quite typical because one great thing about the poll is all of us seems to clearly understand that the predictive elements, the forward-looking elements, even after this current COVID, and we also know that this might not be the last, or we really need to look at forward-looking, and the 67% is clearly looking at that direction. They have drivers. They do admit that it's not fully driver-based, but they are very much into the act. Now, essentially, there are 11 fully driver-based, which is great. I mean, I look at it amazing because even with the modern times, if you come out with a fully driver-based model, that's quite good. So this is clearly on expectation lines, I would say.
Thank you very much, Shyam. George, comments from yourself, please.
Yeah, similar thoughts, right? And as sort of discussed earlier, this is the direction we all need to be heading towards, right? Moving towards the predictive side. So I think as leaders, as finance leaders, we all have a responsibility. And obviously from what you see from this quick poll, Hans, there is a lot of scope for improvement here. I mean, there's a pretty small percentage that are either fully driver-based or digital totally. So that this is, I suspect this to be a major focus going forward for all our FP&A teams.
Absolutely. Thank you, George. Yes, spot on there. We've got 67% that have some and 16% no predictive at all. So lots of room for improvement there. Thank you very much, Shyam. Thank you very much, George. I'm just going to hide the poll and I'm going to start sharing my screen again. And we move on to the fifth facet of the new normal FP&A. So we are now going to talk about skills and recruitment. So skills, different types of skills, different type of role, and then finally the market. So I would like to ask Himashi, MD at APAC for AFP, to give us her view on aligning the skills to the new normal. Himashi, you're welcome. The stage is yours.
Great, thank you, Hans, and hello again. So if you can go to the next slide, Hans. So I want to start with a quote from Jack Welch, and he is the former CEO of General Electric, who said, "An organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive advantage." This is even more true today as COVID-19 has introduced us to the new normal. However, this new normal is not completely as strange as it may seem or feel. Industry 4.0 is arriving at warp speed, and digitalization, as you've heard from the last few presentations, has made the FP&A expertise a desired commodity over the past several years. So what we're seeing in this new normal is an acceleration for the need of this expertise as a result of the pressures of COVID-19 and its aftermath. Can you go to the next slide, Hans, please? The hard realities of this economic recession mean that as a finance professional, you need to deliver value, demonstrate capabilities, and deliver the skill set that makes you an indispensable asset to your organization. When we talk to our AFP members around the world, we hear the challenge of being able to keep up with the high rate of change. We've been seeing this coming for a while, and it's why we've been beating the drum of upskilling in FP&A. The challenge of keeping up with business and technology is a skill that, when developed, proves to be incredibly valuable, particularly for this new normal. So I want to briefly talk about 3 areas where the FP&A professional can excel in the organization, and they are value, capabilities, and skills. If we go to the next slide, please. To begin with, let's place FP&A in the context of the finance organization. The FP&A mission is forward-looking, with its focus to deliver value by allocating capital to its best use and improve the decisions within the company. If we go to the next slide, let's think about the capabilities needed to fulfill this mission. Typically, there are 3 broad categories that FP&A delivers to the company, and one specific to the FP&A team. These are integrated planning, which translates the strategic goals into an operating plan that coordinates the company through forecasting and budgeting. Performance management, delivering the right information to the right person at the right time in the right format. Analytics, delivering insights based on constructed models, data, and information. And within the FP&A team, managing growth of FP&A. FP&A should focus on its own growth and plan for data management and systems architecture. So if you go to the next slide, so let's talk about how we get there. Delivering the value and capabilities requires the right skills to thrive in this new normal. So I'm going to break these skills into 3 areas. The first, finance and business acumen. Your ability to link operations to the general ledger, to model potential outcome, and draw insights are what define you as finance experts. technology and data. The ability to analyze and understand the massive amounts of data available to organizations is a key economic asset that's leveraged throughout business analysis and operations. And lastly, personal and team effectiveness. FP&A is a trusted advisor to the business based on credibility, partnership, and communication. FP&A professionals are best positioned to break down silos and act as a bridge between finance and the rest of the organization, providing detailed and big picture insights for sound decision making. Let's go to the next slide, please. So finally, I want to share a tool that AFP developed called the FP&A maturity model. This model allows you to see where your FP&A department is when it comes to the value, capabilities, and skills of your FP&A team. It helps to identify areas where your team is excelling, as well as areas that can be improved upon. I know this is difficult to read on the screen. The URL is listed here where you can get your complimentary copy of the model. In conclusion, now is the time to upskill and take the step to be an FP&A leader in this new normal and eventually in Industry 4.0. Focus your efforts to develop the skills that address disruption, solve real-time business needs, effectively work across business units, and manage the type of uncertainty we're currently experiencing. As Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, said, "The only worst thing than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay." Thank you so much.
Himashi, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and the piece around the maturity model there is just a great tool to be able to, again, point out where you are, where do you want to go next, and use this moving forward. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next presentation. Latest trends in FP&A recruitment. Devanjali, Associate Director at Michael Page. Devanjali, the stage is yours if you would like to take us through your presentation, please.
Great, thanks, Hans. I'd like to start off by talking about the top trends in the job market due to COVID. Now, disruptions always happen through economic crisis, whether it's change in business models or work conditions. Michael Page conducted a survey for Middle East and Africa, and we found that more than half of the workforce was working from home during lockdown. And the result of this was that companies are now leveraging variable staffing models. So companies like EY, Accenture are reconsidering locations given talent cost and availability. We also saw that a lot of businesses have been directly or indirectly impacted on the headcount. So we see a lot of companies making headcount decisions. Multinationals are restructuring their management roles and relocating positions from Middle East to Europe or Asia Pac. This was recently done by Dyson. We have also seen salary reductions. These are usually on the allowances. Some of the salary reductions are now either permanent, for example, with Emirates, or have been extended till next year. And this includes big family groups as well. We've also seen that there are a lot of people who are learning new skills to adapt to the current roles that are evolving. Increase in AI and automation is leading people to upskill themselves and improve their career prospects. Now let's take a look on the trends in hiring for FP&A professionals. Next slide, please. Types of roles which are currently in demand, you can see that there's a lot of importance on the short-term and long-term planning and forecasting. Hence, the need for scenario modeling, competence in managing variables, building robust models. And since that's in line, you can see that the storyteller and influencer is high in demand. The architect, which was not seen as important pre-COVID, is now super important. So in terms of seniority, commercial and FP&A manager roles, so salaries between 90 to about 140,000 US, they are more in demand, followed by financial analysts, which is close to about $50 to $80,000. Next slide, please. The next thing we saw was the industry's hiring for FP&A professionals. Now, change in business models, so for example, retail is moving towards e-commerce, have driven a rise in FP&A professionals in the FMCG and retail businesses. So as a general rule, they want to understand business drivers and add value, be more strategic, followed by oil and gas, where given the volatility of the industry, they're investing in the FP&A department to manage variables. Next slide, please. Investment in people and processes. So our survey data shows that as many as 70% of the businesses are focusing on automation and process improvements as a response to COVID. Demand for information has skyrocketed whilst timelines have shortened. Finding time to meet these new demands and simultaneously improving systems and processes to keep up is what is the need of the hour. But it is hugely challenging. We can also see that 23% are looking at L&D. It is on agenda for a few companies, but not many, and this is understandable. But it is a missed opportunity and a risk. We are seeing that investing in upskilling teams is essential, or they will not be able to meet the challenge for tomorrow. Regarding recruitment, only 7% are looking to recruit new talent, and the focus for companies is clearly on ensuring automation at the moment. That's all from my side. Thanks, Hans.
Devanjali, thank you very much. Great presentation. And let's not forget the effort you guys have put in to bring together all these information from all the countries in the Middle East and African region as well. So thank you very much for that. That brings us nicely to our conclusion part of our presentation. I would like to ask George now to give us his quick half-a-minute takeaway on his presentation. George, please.
Hi, Hans. Thank you. I'm just sort of reflecting on 2020, right, and what it means for all of us, right, as FP&A professionals. You know, what a year, right? It's one that we certainly won't forget. Many people will refer to this as, you know, a terrible year, the year from hell. But from a finance leadership and FP&A leadership perspective, it's really important that we reflect on what we've learned and how we've evolved and grown over this period. And like many of the presenters have sort of mentioned today, we have a real responsibility to improve our organization, improve our performance, and actually grow our FP&A teams. And I think there's been a number of examples here of how people have dealt with that in terms of managing their teams, improving their processes, and using technology, right? Whether it's digital or whether it's the training programs. So I think that's our responsibility as FP&A and finance leaders, to make sure we're growing and make sure we're analytically better placed to make sure we're making the right decisions and moving our business forward.
Thank you very much, George. I would like to ask Clara for a quick takeaway, please, Clara.
Hi, sure. Yeah, I think after going through all these presentations, as you can tell, you know, the environment is changing a lot, and it's heartening to know that, you know, a lot of companies are actually increasingly relying a lot of business partnering from the FP&A team, from finance team. So I think all the more it made it very clear to all of us that we got to continuously be upgrading our skill set, upgrading what we are doing, how we have been doing, and also doing things with a lot more speed to enable the business to do the decisions that they need to, and for FP&A to embrace and adopt all sorts of technology tools that's out there for us to be able to use in order to follow up with this changing environment that we are working in, and continuously be challenging ourselves into growing more and more in how we do planning and how we collaborate with each other.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you very much. In the essence of time, I will ask Flavia to give us a quick takeaway, please. Strictly 1 or 2 lines. Thank you.
Yeah, no, super. I'm coming out extremely energized and engaged. I think that what I loved is that the role of finance is really evolving a lot from the past accountant role to a business partner role. That is the one that we have today. I see tomorrow as a strategic enabler for our companies and organizations. So that's the only feedback to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flavio. Shyam, your 30-second key takeaway, please.
I think just like COVID proved us how how we should take care of our immunity, stay healthy, follow the practices of staying healthy. And this is what I think the new normal is also telling us from an FP&A perspective, is to embrace new technologies, to adapt quickly, to be more, and for not only for organizations, for individuals also to learn new skill sets, not just FP&A, but also more of the technology and business wise as well. So it's all about staying motivated and think about the fact that every crisis brings an opportunity to personally as well as to professionally.
Thank you. Thank you, Shyam. Himashi, your quick 30 seconds takeaway, please.
So this is, pre-COVID and post-COVID, FP&A has a very unique vantage point within the organization, with its ability to look at how different pieces of the organization come together from both strategy standpoint as well as tactical execution. So, FP&A teams can help leadership connect the dots, plus highlight gaps and efficiencies. So the time is right to make sure you have the right skills on your team to perform at its highest level. It's so important right now.
Thank you, Himashi. And finally, Devi, your quick 30-second takeaway, please.
It's impressive how a lot of people have now, shown agility and are changing with the changing times. It's also great that people are now upskilling themselves. So I think the need of the hour is to learn and develop and adapt to the new age. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Devi. This now brings us nicely to our Q&A session. I will now pass on to Larissa, who will take us through the Q&A session. Larissa, please.
Hi, everyone. What a wonderful session. And thank you so much to all our panelists and to all our participants for such a dynamic session. So a lot of questions. Please continue to text your questions. Don't worry if you don't have enough time. We will be able to answer in offline regime. So the first one is to George. George, the question is about scenario planning. I combined a couple of questions here. So what is the most important factor for dynamic and integrated scenario planning? What would you recommend for those companies that just starting this journey? What should be the first steps? George?
So thanks, Larissa. Good question. We started that this year, right? So, and I think when we started the scenario planning, it was the easier part of it. It was our upside and downside scenario, just looking from a revenue perspective, if we had, an uplift and a downlift in terms of a certain range, right? But what happened, COVID had such a massive impact for us, and we learned so much from the predictive model that we purchased. We were able to start factoring in a lot more detailed variables around the type of patients that we would see, where they would go, and we were able then to move our resources, predominantly workforce, but also other variable expenses around to support that demand based on where it was happening. So the scenario analysis became more dynamic as we had a sort of market-based environmental predictive tool that supported the financial scenario analysis. So I think you start simple, and then as you understand your environment better, you can then factor in more complicated scenarios.
Thank you so much, George. Thank you for your answer. The next question is to Clara. Clara, as FP&A is going more digital, predictive, what key skills would you say you look for the analyst level in your team? Do you think that data scientists could be threatened to replace the accountant?
Hi. Yeah, that's a good question, and many people have posed that before. I don't think data scientists will actually replace an accountant, but I think it's a very complementary set of skills and team that we have. Obviously, I think more and more accountants will also evolve to be closer to data scientists. I think we have seen that technology, the advancement of technology is able to help a lot of different skills, and definitely I think from an FP&A person, I would say one of the more critical skills is this adaptability. Reason I say that is because not only the technology part that you need to be adaptable and learning and picking up those kind of skills, data crunching, but at the same time, as you saw during the COVID, I'm sure many of you as FP&A have experienced it, that as the business goes through tremendous changes and so much of unknowns, they tend to fall back, or at least they come to FP&A teams, finance team, in order to go for advice and what to do and how to kind of try and get some predictability out of this unpredictable environment. So that's where all the more FP&A, as a core member of the team, you have got to learn to adapt to all the different kind of changes that we are seeing every day in our lives, in the environment, and learn to pick up all the different kind of skills that are required for us to be this good trusted partner to the business.
Clara, thank you so much for your answer.
Okay.
Now the question is to Flavia. Flavia, what are the best practices in using robotic process automation, RPA, in FP&A activities? What is your experience with this?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and it's a quite straightforward. I think it's a quick win. I mean, we start I mean around 10-15 years ago to move some transactional activities, or let's call it low value added activities, now in moving from high cost country to lower cost country in terms of labor law and so on. I think today we should really leverage on this RPA in order to have something that is not adding value to our company and our team. We need to do it extremely well, and this is what this software, this robotics, let's say, is doing exceptionally for us. So I would really recommend to start from basics if you don't have it yet in your company. Again, the example of the invoices, can be one of these, or whatever. You just have to somehow copy and paste now from a piece of paper to a system. This will really show you the power of this tool, and then you can build up on that and leveraging on that much more.
Thank you so much, Flavia. The next question is to Shyam. Shyam, so as we all know, around 80% of organizations still use Excel as a tool for financial planning and analysis. Why is there the lack of push to acquire the new technology for FP&A? What would be your view?
Larissa, I kind of missed you in between. Can you repeat that question between? Because I think can you repeat that question again, please, for me?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about this. So 80% of organizations still use Excel. So definitely it's not enough push from organizations to invest in technology. So what is the why is it happening in your view, and what should be done to change it?
The biggest important and a very relevant question, Larissa. I mean, we all love Excel. We are all familiarized with Excel. So one is probably the apathy towards Excel as probably making the change to the systems more difficult. But at the same time, one should ask the question, what am I struggling today? What if I had the answers for this? Which to a greater extent, Excel, we all know at a certain point will not be efficiently able to collaborate, efficiently able to bring a lot of data, efficiently able to audit, efficiently able to analyze multidimensionals. So this is where the move to a system becomes more pertinent once you start getting the feel that I'm not able to answer the question with Excel, and if I had a system in place, I would have been able to answer it much better. And during these times of COVID, that is becoming more essential. I personally feel, I think the move from Excel to a system basis, if not had happened, is just around the corner now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shyam. Thank you. The next question is to Himashi. Himashi, in FP&A certification, is there a reflection of the new age, what is happening? Is there reflection that the requirement is more data science and analytics rather than classical accounting?
Yes, we're seeing, the focus on the certification is really to build your skills in your knowledge, skills, and abilities and what you need to effectively do in your FP&A role. So data visualization, data analytics. The candidate is expected to build a financial model from the ground up and not only analyze the data, but interpret what that data means to help drive business decisions within the organization, which is really the area where we see as an organization, and we talk to companies all over the world, but this is where we see the universal skill gap. So that's where the certification can really help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Himashi. And now is the last question before we close the Q&A session, but please bear in mind that we will answer your questions in offline regime. You will receive emails from us. Divanjali, the question is to you, the last one. It's about FP&A roles. So do you see the trend in the Middle East and Africa at the moment that qualified accountants are starting to upskill on analytics, data science, and so on and so forth? Is it happening?
Absolutely, Larissa. So like I mentioned during the presentation, a lot of people are investing in upskilling themselves, whether they're doing diplomas, courses, or thinking back to go to school. It's all happening. And it is also interesting to see that companies are investing in their employees as well, though not so much within this region as of now, but the trend is definitely taking off.
Thank you so much, Divanjali. Thank you, and thank you for all your questions. As I said, there are more of them, and we will answer offline. So back to you, Hans.
Larissa, thank you very much. We had a great set of questions and great set of answers. This brings us nicely to our concluding element and the closing of our call today. Just before we go, I would like to say thank you to all of our sponsors, Jedox, Michael Page, Planafin, AFP. A big thank you to all of our presenters and speakers today. They've just been fantastic. What great panel, but also what great material. I hope all of you guys have enjoyed it and can take quite a lot from it. Finally, a big thank you to our attendees themselves. Without you guys, this will just not be a great presentation. Just before I close the call, I'd just like to remind you guys, when I do close the call, you will be directed to a survey page. It would be great to hear your thoughts on how we've done and how we can improve going forward. So please do so. And for now, I would like to thank you all for attending and have a great day, great evening, and see you in the next call. Thank you very much all, and this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you very much. Goodbye.